Hi roamers, welcome back to the channel. As you know, we recently traded in our other old truck for a newer truck and a bigger truck. And we finally got a chance to use it this past week to tow our rig. So we came from Cottonwood, Arizona to Tucson, Arizona. And it was about a 4-hour drive, not counting the stops and stuff.
Yeah, we used to have a 2012 Ford F-250. Now we have a 2016 Ram 2500. And one thing I got to say is that the ride to Cottonwood was kind of the thing that put me over the edge to say that we needed to get a better truck.
Oh, be sure and go look at that video about that horrific trip.
Yeah, the trip from hell, as we've come to call it. So we did the exact same ride. We took the F-250 one way and the 2500 the other way. We're going to tell you how the Ram performed versus the Ford. As I said, part of the reason that I really felt that we needed a new truck was the trip to Cottonwood. And actually, this picture I had shown to one of my brother-in-laws, and he immediately responded with, "Boy, that thing looks like it's squatting a lot." And it was. One of the things I have to say up front is that the F-250 did not have the tow package, which would have given it a more beefy suspension, an integrated trailer brake, and some other features that were really needed if that truck was going to go long term. I really feel like the 250 was getting worn out, especially the suspension.
So once we got to Cottonwood and got settled a little and started talking about perhaps getting another truck, Felix started looking around, and somehow he's really good at finding these deals on good trucks for some reason, which is great. But he was able to find this Ram at a local dealership. It's actually a Chevrolet dealership, but they, of course, have some...
Larry Green Chevrolet, which we love.
Yeah. And so we started considering that, and he went and looked at it.
Well, when I got there, one of the things that the salesman said was, "This truck has a 6.4 Hemi in it. Your truck has a 6.2 liter engine in it. 0.2 is going to make that much of a difference?" And I had to explain to him that it wasn't that the truck couldn't pull the rig. It was that the truck was not necessarily equipped to pull that rig. So I took it for a test drive, and we ended up buying it. Some of you may know, if you're new to the channel, you might not, so take a look at this video. The transmission was no good on the Ram. It blew out on the trip to Tucson from Cottonwood, and that is why we fell in love with Larry Green Chevrolet, because of the way they handled the whole thing. So, let's talk about the differences between the Ram and the Ford.
Fight!
And like I said, we were taking the exact same ride. This time from Cottonwood to Tucson. When we had the Ford, we took it from Tucson to Cottonwood. Basically, an entire day's journey for us, even if we were going cross country. The Ram provided more power going uphill. Along the length of this trip, there are some 6 and 7% grades. And the Ford really wasn't doing very well. I dropped down to, at one point, and you'll know because you were behind me, 35 miles an hour going up one of those grades. And that's on an interstate.
And I did notice on the way back with the Ram, there was never any slowing down. There was never any times that I could tell you were having trouble because if you don't know, I drive my Nissan Rogue behind the rig and can tell when there's some things going kind of iffy up there. But this time there wasn't anything. I think that's one reason why we made good time, and there wasn't that much difficulty with getting up the grades.
I never dropped below 55 miles an hour on these grades. So that's a check mark for the Ram. The one thing I will say that the Ford did better than the Ram does is on the downhills. Now, I don't know if you know or not, but the tow haul mode does provide you with a certain level of engine braking. It's not like if you have a diesel where you can turn on engine braking and you basically can come to a stop almost. But when you're going downhill, if you tap your brakes or feather your brakes, as you should going downhill, the tow haul mode detects that and it downshifts and allows your engine to, the compression in your engine, to slow you down going downhill. Well, the Ford, I have to say, did that really well. We went down some pretty steep grades, and all I had to do was tap those brakes, and that thing would drop down to second gear and really slow me down. The Ram does slow us down, but not to the level that the Ford did. I think probably one of the most obvious things was acceleration from a stop. We pulled over into a rest stop to go to the bathroom and do whatever. And when we did that with the Ford, I had to pretty much stomp on it to get it to get up to highway speed. The Ram, it was smooth. I would be going out onto the highway and I'd be up at 50, 55 miles an hour, and I could just merge seamlessly onto the highway with no problem.
At a few points on the way there, being behind the rig, I got a little concerned, and I think I called you one time and said, hey, what's going on up there? Because it looked like he was having some difficulty. I didn't know if the wind maybe was catching the trailer or what was going on, but it looked like he was doing a little bit of swaying back and forth, or the rig was swaying.
And what that turned out to be, in reality, was me getting used to the suspension on this Ram. And this is a huge difference from the Ford. The Ford had a very hard, very rigid suspension for the time being until it got worn out by the trailer. But the Ram is soft, and it kind of just, I don't know, glides into the bumps. And I wasn't used to that. So I was like overcompensating because, like, what's going on here, you know? I definitely straightened out very shortly thereafter. The other thing with the suspension is whenever we would go over a bump with the Ford while we were towing, I would feel the trailer pulling backwards when it hit the bump. I don't feel that at all with the Ram. As a matter of fact, when we got here, there's 2 speed bumps where we come in, and I had to actually look in my mirror to see that I had gotten past the speed bump. I had no idea that the trailer had gone over the speed bump. So the suspension is a vast difference.
One of the things Felix mentioned many times while we had the F-250 was how uncomfortable it was.
Yeah.
The seat was not cushy at all. There was hardly any padding in it. We even added a padded seat thing in there. It was just very uncomfortable, especially on long rides.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I didn't ride in it that often, and I didn't ride in it in any long distance things, so because I'm always driving my car, but it was something that was really concerning because we do a lot of long distance stuff whenever we're moving from place to place. So he was very happy to get the Ram that's kind of like sitting in your living room in a recliner.
Oh, it's a world of difference. Now, in the defense of the 250, it was a construction vehicle prior to us buying it. It was part of a fleet for a construction company. He told me, the guy I bought it from told me that it had been the supervisor's truck. And quite honestly, the back seat had never been used when we bought it. So, yeah, I would actually, there would be times when I would just kind of flop into the seat in that truck and it would bottom out. It would be like sitting down on a piece of wood. This truck, it's, like I said, a world of difference. I didn't feel any fatigue riding the 4 hours. It's completely different. So to summarize, we are thrilled with the Ram. Despite a rocky start with the transmission, it had performed amazingly well, pulling our almost 10,000 pound RV. And it is, as I've said a couple of times through this video, kind of a world of difference from the 250.
Yeah.
As I said to Cindy recently, I am going to take very, very good care of this truck because I would like this to be the truck that we have for years and years to come. Thanks for watching, and until next time, roamers, safe travels.